Before this whole China-Australia tension took place, Chinese communities practice this kind of flexible citizenship quite well and quite successfully. But now they felt that increasingly they're having to make a decision about their allegiance, because on a daily basis allegiance is being called into question.
I used to get invited to a lot of Chinese community events and a lot of Chinese community engagement. And the only consideration I will usually bear in mind is whether I have time to attend those things. But nowadays, I have to take into consideration if media pick this up, what will they say? What will they question? What will they ask? What will they frame me as? It does affect me a lot as a local councillor.
And China is becoming more and more controlled, and environmentally it's very, very hard for the Chinese communities in Australia to imagine going back and living in China after 30 years, like myself. At the same time, this country they have adopted has become more and more unfriendly and suspicious of them. I wouldn't blame them at all for feeling that increasingly they are between a rock and a hard place.
There's a Chinese MP in WA called Paul Yang who was tarnished by one of our key media organs, The Australian, with, being a fellow traveller of China because he took a position on a spy ship off the Australian coast. It turns out he'd been 10 years in the Australian Defence Forces, was an excellent Mandarin linguist, and had been specifically tasked by the Australians to work on the MH370 search exercise with a participating Chinese vessel. So this disposition to paint the worst possible picture of people in these circumstances, in this environment, I think is very worrying. We should be alert, have our senses about us. But don't let's translate this kind of rough and tumble in a changing tectonic plate, global geostrategic environment. Don't let's translate that into broad-brushed prejudice, anxiety, fear about overreach of very, very hugely contributing members of our community, many, of course, of whom have been Australians for generations and who are passionately committed to the future of this country.